The 5 areas that I think a lot of entrepreneurs should be looking at is prospecting, sales, onboarding, HR, basically onboarding employees, and data manipulation. With each one of these, there's going to be a similar sort of, call it a DAO of what you're going to be looking for, which is you want to be looking for systems or processes that have clear inputs and clear outputs. And often that's harder than it sounds. Take for example, if you're a professional accountant, maybe your input is looking at the P&L statement, but you have a lot of fuzzier inputs than just a P&L statement. You've also been talking with your client, you've been understanding their goals, their fears, their age, demographics. You have a lot more inputs than just the P&L statement in front of you. And that's the same way with a lot of processes that we would want to be automating. The reality is that we don't know what inputs allow the human to do the job.
Welcome to episode 161. My guest is Garik Tate, co-founder and CEO of Valhalla.team, an IT consulting company that exists to amplify the impact of innovators who are building products with purpose. Garik is an AI strategy consultant whose philosophy is that AI can solve a lot of constraints that automation cannot. So I couldn't miss the opportunity to discuss AI and how entrepreneurs can harness its potential for growth, efficiency, and overcoming bottlenecks. Join us in this conversation as Garik details the 5 key business areas where entrepreneurs can apply AI: prospecting, sales, onboarding, HR, and data manipulation. Let's tune in. Hi, Garik. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
So, you're an AI guy and an entrepreneur, of course. So, you are an entrepreneur evolving in the AI industry. So, let's go into the subject. How can entrepreneurs harness the true essence of AI?
So, the coolest thing about being an entrepreneur in the 21st century, at least from where I'm standing, is that we're in an age of, I like to think of it as the new horsepower. So before, when humans were doing tasks, our bodies, could move and we could really do any one of a number of things. But as we got animals and then through this industrial revolution, machines be doing physical tasks, we didn't have to ourselves do the work anymore. With AI, there's a similar point where we now have a electronic workhorse, and it still needs to be designed out. It still needs to be thought through with that entrepreneurial mindset, very, very much so. Just like before, you couldn't just put out the oxen and then they would till your field for you. You'd have to, strap them up and do the work, engineering everything and putting things together. But in the modern age, with a little bit of creative imagination and some abstract thinking, we can automate just about anything inside of our business that has clear inputs and outputs and that has multiple instances that's repetitive. And that massively changes the game in a way that I think we're just realizing. We're still at the very beginning.
So is that the objective of AI, to help you automate?
I think it's bigger than that on the high level. Primarily when I'm talking to entrepreneurs and people that are, building businesses, wanting to add value to society, we take a look at it from that more engineering point of view of like what's the inputs and outputs? How can this add more value to you, to your business and your customers? But if we really take a zoomed out approach, it's really the creation of, exactly what it sounds like, artificial intelligence, creating intelligence beyond just our own brain power.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of discussions about AI, but AI is not new. It's been there for, I think, 20 years at least, if I remember well. No, it's hard.
It's been around for like about 50 plus, give or take. But back then it was all theoretical because we didn't have any of the hardware to actually do it. But it's crazy to think some of the early scientists were just thinking through the implications of it without practically any prototyping.
Right. And so it came out like as a hot topic because of thanks to ChatGPT and OpenAI going public. And so it's been really hard, and there's a lot of negative and positive about it. What is your stake on AI?
My stake is that it's another step in the industrial revolution. That it is fundamentally a big step, but ultimately we've been here before. Now, it seems like changes are happening faster and faster, but I'm not really a big fan of the perspective that we're in a totally new place. We've never been here before. I'm a big fan of Ray Dalio's book Principles behind me. I love I think it's valuable, and I love the concept that we've been here before, just maybe not in our lifetime. And so I see AI as being on the trajectory of where we've already been going to, which is ultimately, in some ways dystopic and sometimes utopic, probably going right down the middle, but ultimately freeing up humans to be more productive and be building more and cooler things.
Yeah, I absolutely recommend Ray Dalio's book, Principles. It's great book. Very heavy, but it's a great book. So let's talk, about entrepreneurs. What are the best applications entrepreneurs can use AI for?
So the 5 areas that I think a lot of entrepreneurs should be looking at is prospecting, sales, onboarding, HR, basically onboarding employees, and data manipulation.
Okay.
So we can take those one at a time. I would say that with each one of these, there's going to be a similar sort of, call it a DAO of what you're going to be looking for, which is you want to be looking for systems or processes that have clear inputs and clear outputs. And often that's harder than it sounds. Take for example, if you're a professional accountant, maybe your input is looking at the P&L statement, but you have a lot of fuzzier inputs than just a P&L statement. You've also been talking with your client, you've been understanding their goals, their fears, their age, demographics. You have a lot more inputs than just the P&L statement in front of you. And that's the same way with a lot of processes that we would want to be automating. The reality is that we don't know what inputs allow the human to do the job. But if you can extract out those inputs then and create clear outputs, then that is a step of your business's process that can be automated. And the ChatGPT's gunshot moment was doing this with text, but there's also text, images. We're trying to do it with video. Audio is much further ahead than most people realize. So there's the capabilities of AI is just increasing more and more and more. But the thesis statement you'd be thinking about is, where is a bottleneck in my business? Where's a bottleneck in the business that has clear inputs and outputs, that is repetitive, and then whatever is the nature of it, text, video, audio, complex, multi-step, single step, it doesn't matter. AI is advancing to the point where you can engineer the protocol of how AI is going to approach it. Maybe it's not a single prompt, maybe it's multiple prompts, maybe it's multiple moving pieces coming together, but you can build that without a developer. And I love working with developers. I work with developers for 6+ years at this point, but you can build this with no-code tools, just with some entrepreneurial grit.
Right. So can you give us like a practical example for each of the 5 areas you identified?
Perfect. Yeah. So let's go with sales. So inside of sales, there are parts of your sales process from, one example that we did with our sister companies was on the website, we put a chat bot that takes in customer information and then schedules calls. The entire business model is based around a key person of influence, sort of a branding model. So the founder of that company has a lot of content on their YouTube channel and social media, and it's all about how to get a personal assistant, how to get someone to double your time and ultimately, hopefully, start you on the journey of removing yourself as a bottleneck, actually. And people go on the website wanting to know information about how to hire a personal assistant, how to train them properly, how to handle issues that arise, how to proceed with that. And so we put all that information into that chatbot on the website so they could ask questions as if they were getting coached by the founder in that moment. And if they are liking the coaching, then of course they can enter in their email and schedule a call to potentially proceed. So that's an example of a sales process that we added AI in.
Okay. So what about onboarding then?
Onboarding is a similar thing. There's a company right now that I'm in talks with about doing exit planning. They have a platform for exit planning, and that's a really scary thing that a lot of businesses go through. But if they have a coach or somebody kind of walk them through and break that down to a step-by-step process, it becomes a lot more achievable, let's say. Absolutely. And so, but their platform is quite complex. There's a lot of moving pieces. And so right now, I'm in talks with them about adding in AI to guide that onboarding process based on wherever they're at. So the inputs is that, the user enters in like the reports or financial information, but if they're confused at any steps, there's any point where they don't know, then the AI can be there to be helping them walk through. This is more, once again, another chatbot example. I think a lot of good examples don't need chatbots, but this is another example of using a chatbot to help the onboarding process in that particular business that has a very long onboarding process.
Right. So in both examples you gave, I think what AI is used for is to improve efficiency, right? And therefore save costs.
And they are really about making intelligence accessible through a chat interface as opposed to automating steps. So I can give an example of automating steps. We have another company that actually the same outsourcing company. The bottleneck there was not in getting clients; it was in getting the right premium personal assistants. It's definitely a more premium side of the market, so we have to make sure we get only the best people. And we were getting plenty of applicants, but we weren't able to process them fast enough. And sometimes it was up to 2-3 months before we were able to find the right candidate for a role. We were able to reduce that down to about just 1/3 because the recruitment process had a series of steps. Go through this interview, then take this test and do the next interview. And because that was broken down, we found that all the parts that people were slipping through the cracks was in the beginning had very clear inputs, very clear outputs. We shopped around for the right open source AI tools out there, and I would encourage everyone to be thinking about this. Like, whatever you're looking for, there's probably an open source tool out there that you can just plug into their API without knowing how to code. That can, or by teaching yourself very, very little abstract logic. So I would call it low code in that case. We found some open source tools out there on the market in order to read resumes, in order to create some of the responses to the common questions, and plug that in the beginning of our funnel. And we were able to triple the number of people that we were able to process, because not only did it make the beginning of the funnel very easy, most importantly, it freed up all the recruiters so they could really service people throughout the entire funnel, and all their time to be spent personalizing the experience for the applicants. That had a dramatic impact on the business.
And then the thing is that you can also train the AI so that it's more personalized to your needs also as a business. Am I correct? And then the AI can also learn from itself, right? So that
I want to be careful with the point of it learning from itself. That definitely can happen, but there's a couple of ways let's call it personalize an AI, and this is really important, I think, for business owners that especially want to build products with AI. Do you think that would be worth going down a rabbit hole of that?
Yeah, go ahead. Just don't be too technical.
Oh yeah, no worries. The old way of training your AI was through let's call it fine tuning. This was where you would basically just train it of what a good response and bad response was, and then every time we would learn from those mistakes and then proceed. And you can maybe automate that through adversarial networks where you have one AI labeling another AI trying butt heads with it. So there was ways to automate that, but that was essentially fine tuning. And at this point, in the age of large language models and some of these larger models, they're so massive that we're not really fine-tuning them anymore. As in, if you're consuming, if you're going off the OpenAI API or Anthropic's Claude or these other tools, you're probably not fine-tuning them. Now, you can take an open source, tinier model and fine-tune that still. And in fact, even OpenAI, you can pay like extra tens of thousands of dollars to fine-tune a model that's specific just to you. So like, it's not that that's not a move on the chessboard, but it's not the most common anymore. Now the two most common moves when people are talking about training in AI or specializing in AI is through either prompt engineering, and that is really still a human essentially seeing what's working, what's not working, tweaking the AI, and then it works better. But that's not it learning itself. That's just adjusting the prompts, or it learning from the context of the conversation. You say, give me A, it gives you B. You say, no, I said A, and then like, oh yeah, now in the future I'll do A. But the third, which I think is in that happy middle ground where it can add tremendous value, but it's not too hard, is creating what's called a knowledge base. And what a knowledge base is for the listeners who haven't heard of this, and this is something that you can do on like any build your own chatbot tool, like BotPress. I think VoiceFlow is another application if you want to build your own version of this. It's basically just ChatGPT plus build your own knowledge base, so anyone can do this themselves. You can imagine a knowledge base as just a database that you can store any information in, and that information will be easily accessible by the AI. Yeah. So what ends up happening is you prompt the chatbot or the large language model exactly as you already would. You do the exact same set of questions. This is what we did for our sister company where we built the sales chatbot I was talking about, where people would ask coaching. You prompt it, how do I find a great virtual assistant? How do I train my virtual assistant? How do I onboard? How do I remove myself as a bottleneck? What have you. And then the AI knows before it answers your question, it first checks the database to see if there's any information that is close to that. Then it takes that context from the knowledge base and it takes the context from the user's prompt and it combines them together in its answer. And that is remarkably easy to build, but can add tremendous value. And that really is personalizing a chatbot just for you, because if it's always looking at a particular knowledge base, it's going to give a consistently different answer based on the same set of questions.
That's interesting. Sounds like I should do that for my coaching business. But I want to reflect on my experience.
Move yourself on bottleneck. You don't have
to. Hey, I'm a business of one, so it's easy to become the bottleneck. But I want to reflect on my experience using AI, and because I want to have your opinion. So I'm a big user of ChatGPT, right? I really enjoy it, and now I got better at giving it prompts, so the results that I get are better. But I was thinking last time that, because I use it mostly for writing, social media posts, or for helping me asking myself some questions and getting some answers in my coaching approach or stuff like that. But I was thinking last time that it was making me a bit lazy because I was relying on it too much, and therefore I was not doing all the thinking that I used to do.
Yeah.
But that is one side of the coin. But the other side of the coin was like, well, actually, I'm not getting lazier. I'm actually improving my knowledge because ChatGPT teaches me new stuff that I did not know, which I can learn from, expanding my perspectives. I can learn from it. And then next time, I will already have that in my own knowledge database. And therefore, I can give even better prompts to ChatGPT, which creates like a virtuous circle. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting as the nature of the problem changes, the way our gray matter evolves changes too. That was way too highfalutin. There's a great book written years ago. I think it's called How to Think Like Sherlock. And in it, the author talks about this one study that was done for people who wrote everything down basically in a note system. They had sort of a David Allen key and things done system, versus people that had a better self-reported memory, who had memorized the information. And they found that the people who had a good note-taking habit, they were quicker to forget information, but they were very quick to remember where that information was at. In other words, they were remembering something. They were using their faculties, but they were flabby in other areas. But if we remember the great quote from Albert Einstein of don't feel your, he didn't remember the speed of light, and people asked him oh, what is it? They'd be shocked at, sometimes he would forget things like that. They'd be like, I can just look that up. It's a concept that really matter. And so I think there is a really hard question we have to ask ourselves. But it applies as much to calculators as it does large language models. Is the hard part of this task for outsourcing the machine the part of our brain that we want to be flabby because it allows us to optimize more on the parts that are uniquely our strong suits? Or are we outsourcing the wrong things, and maybe we need to change how we interact with the technology? And I do think that we always need to optimize for where we're at in time and space. This AI is as bad as it's ever going to be. It's only going to get better from here. And there's something to be said for hooking your ride on the right horse here. But with that being said, I do think that our ability to focus, our ability to keep our attention on one problem for a very long period of time, that skill is only going to become rarer and rarer, and is something that we should double down on and we should be focusing on. And I think that sometimes outsourcing, hey, write this email for me, ChatGPT. I think we are sometimes robbing ourselves of reps in that mental gym, and that's a skill worth keeping. So that's my nuance.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting perspective, because this is exactly where I am in my journey with AI today. It is, and I think I completely agree with you. I have to be careful not to give it too much, so that I keep that mental fitness, which is really important. I'm not asking AI to write emails, for instance, but I will ask ChatGPT to improve the language.
Yeah,
because it's very good at that. And I suck at it because I'm French. But it's very good. It's very good at that, and it still keeps the meaning of everything. And then for me, then it's I use that as a learning, like I was saying, like, I learn new words, for instance, and I learn new sentence constructions, new sentence structures, which is very, very interesting. Well, thank you for sharing your perspective on AI. And I want to go now to the other part of you, the entrepreneur part. Why are you an entrepreneur?
I would definitely say I'm not a born entrepreneur. What I mean by that is if I look at a lot of entrepreneurs I really respect, their nervous systems are a little calibrated a little bit differently. I have a slightly higher neuroses than I think most entrepreneurs. Things stress me out a little bit more. But I was given a very lucky start to life, which was being born in an entrepreneurial family. And so I was, as a child, constantly observing the mental tips and tricks that would get you through that uncertainty. And discovered Stoicism early on, discovered Tony Robbins and kind of self-talk. So I feel quite happy with my strengths, not being, I'd say, a natural born entrepreneur, but finding the mental tips and tricks and cycles that now buffer me against the extreme uncertainty of being an entrepreneur. But I would certainly say that part of it was just the luck of the family I was born in, truly.
Oh, well, but you could have said, "Oh, it's not for me," but you didn't. So is that a fun business?
The software company is founded by myself, and the two other companies are co-founded with my father, and they all share a legal infrastructure.
How is it to work with your father?
We have a really great relationship. I think it helps a lot that we actually enjoy each other's company. And so, and we have very different outlooks about a lot of things in life, but we have a similar love, I think, of language and of abstract things. So we always know exactly why we disagree and are able to dig into it. And that gives us the best of both worlds, because you're not always in an echo chamber, but you always have the language in order to get to the heart of the issue. And so I think that makes a really good tag team. He's a little more kite, and I might be a little more string, but it gives a good dynamic energy, I'd say.
Nice. So you're complementary. That's good. Good to hear. So this show is about bottlenecks. What are your current bottlenecks?
I would say that I can definitely be a bottleneck sometimes in the business. Right now, this particular, I'd say last couple months, I'm working on empowering my marketing team to be publishing more content, particularly with my face and with my brand into places, but not needing me as much. And that's been a bit of a unique challenge, because of course it's my brand, and I'm structured in a way to inherently care that the things put from my mouth are things that I have said, etc., but simultaneously wanting to empower the team to move forward on the vision, the mission, everything without me. That's definitely been a bit of a challenge.
How is that a challenge?
I think it's maybe the assumption that I need to review everything and that they can make limited decisions without me, because if they can only publish what I say. And so striking that balance where I can be producing the content and they can be taking and running with it, and even overproducing content so they can pick and choose and then kind of set the vision for themselves so they can be making a lot of creative decisions. It's interesting.
And why have you decided to work on that particular bottleneck now?
I think it's because I don't want to let them down. If they give me just this week, had about 12 pieces of content, about 3 of them quite large. Been working on for months, and went through all of it. Give opinions, kind of how to educate them about some nuances with AI and business and such. I'd say it's particularly present right now because the quantity of content is going up. Which like and subscribe after you watch this episode and watch it a second time and comment on the Bottleneck Coach. You can check out our YouTube channel.
Absolutely. And this is very interesting to go through your bottleneck, because that's a lot of entrepreneurs go to similar bottlenecks, similar phases. What would happen if you're not successful? Like if you can't empower your team correctly the way you want to, what would happen, you think?
Well, I think that there's a more abstract question across different departments that you're asking. I would have a different answer for just the marketing department. But, fundamentally, at the end of life, having only worked with the horsepower of one smart brain and not the horsepower of multiple, would look back on life with a regret of damn, I could have done so much more. But it was just me chewing along with me. That's a fundamental on the highest level. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what about the other departments?
That was my answer across all departments. It wasn't so much the failure of the content side.
Okay. So if I were to put my coaching hat, I would say you're trying to build an organization that goes beyond you right now.
Absolutely.
How long did it take you to realize that?
Well, this company is about 6 years old. Yeah. The collection of companies, actually the other companies that we founded more directly with my father, overall is about 11 years old at this point. And the fact that I came in to the organization, from the position that I did, and we were expand the teams. I'd say felt very much from day one, to be honest. Like I don't think that losing the perspective. I don't think I've ever had a solopreneur type of view. It's been always kind of a vision of the overall greater vision and the larger team.
Yeah, it's interesting. This bottleneck. It ties around, like you're talking about empowering your team. It comes down to letting go and delegating, and this is the biggest bottleneck of all the entrepreneurs I've talked to. That's really interesting, and it's really important because you're going through these stages of entrepreneurship where the company is small, you do so many things, but as the company grows, and if you want the company to continue growing, you really have to empower people in terms of tasks, but also in terms of decision making process. Otherwise, you're gonna hit a ceiling and you won't be able to go anywhere from there. You're gonna be stuck. That's sorry, I was putting my coaching hat there.
It's quite relevant, and I think that it can come and go in waves as you have a position, the next plateau, and you're like, okay, I've already figured this out, and then a few months later, you're like, wait, actually, I'm doing the exact same things. It's just at a greater playing level, and the reason. No,
but that's the thing is that yes, it's what is going to happen, but every time it's going to be at a higher level, like you said. I had a guest recently who said that if you don't become the bottleneck, then something is wrong.
I think down one entrepreneurial path that there is some intrinsic truth to that, but I would say that's depending on the game you're playing, and that game you're playing is a mental game more than anything else.
Absolutely.
And so it depends on the framework and the path and the vision you have. But I think there's definitely a lot of people who live the type of life where that has to be true. I think there's wisdom in that.
All right. So take all your experience as an AI expert, but also an entrepreneur. And if you had to summarize it into one practical recommendation for other entrepreneurs, startup funders, aspiring entrepreneurs, what would that be?
So this is kind of a write it on my tombstone sort of a thing.
Yes.
Incredible. If there was a single piece of advice, it certainly would be, I think, tied to my favorite quote of all time by Annie Dillard, which is how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. And, life isn't something that happens later. It's something that's happening right now. And a similar thing of our character, our personality, our legacy. It's not something that we become later. It's something you're practicing right now in this moment. And so if you're listening to this episode and you're focusing on this, or you're enjoying this moment, or you're in pain, or whatever's going on in your life, that is your life. And so being that which engages with it, which finds the good in it, which can find the gratitude, which can find a part that you can control, which can help make other people's lives better, that is something you can do in this moment. There's never a better time to start than right now. So yeah, I'd say how we spend our days is how we spend our lives.
I hear the stoicist in you, I think. It reminds me of a quote that I really love. Everybody has two lives. The second life starts when you realize that you only have one.
I heard that. Do you know who said that?
I have no idea.
I have ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT.
Exactly.
The brilliant, yeah. Heard it, so that's brilliant.
Garik, thank you very much for your time. Just one last question. How can people contact you?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'd say that if you want to reach out to us to build out a AI product, or build something that's maybe you can't do with just low code, no code. Once you go down a little bit further down your path, you can reach out to us on valhalla.team. So that's our website, valhalla.team, and we can work with you to build a AI-based software product. But if you're just looking for how can you add AI directly into your business, maybe not as a tech product, but just to add in automations and efficiencies, you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn at Garik Tate, and I'm sure the links will be in the show notes or something.
Yes, everything will be there. Again, thank you very much, Garik.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
And thank you for listening. If you found this episode useful, then you're going to love this. I've put together a free online assessment that I call the Bottleneck Index, which actually Garik took. You answer a series of key questions around your working habits, and it gives you your bottleneck score, along with some practical recommendations on how to strive as an entrepreneur. Just visit my website and take it for free. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.